recording. Yes. Yeah, I was born in Japan and moved to Los Angeles when I was 3, and grew up there. My home is Los Angeles. And yeah, I grew up, within my house. I speak Japanese with my parents. They don't speak English, so I grew up, translating for them and being American outside of home and being Japanese at home. And I'm really excited to be sharing some insights on the Japanese culture today to better prepare you for your program shortly. I have Jennifer with me. I'm sure you've received many, many emails from her, but she can answer any programmatic questions. But as she said earlier, we're going to focus more on the culture of Japan more than the program itself. And then I have two wonderful returnees with me today, Kylie and Alyssa. Do you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Who wants to go first?
You can go
Start.
first.
Me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Alyssa. I went to Japan in the 2023-2024 group. I left in March and came back to America last February, so I've been home for a year now. I what else do you guys want to know? I'm
Where were
18
you
years old.
hosted?
Oh, I was hosted in the Osaka region. My host family lived right in between Osaka and Kobe. And so I visited both of those cities pretty frequently.
Very nice. Thanks, Alyssa.
Of course.
Kylie?
So I was also 2023 to 2024. And I left in August and I came back last February. So I was there for a semester. And I was actually sent to a very far north of Japan, the farthest north that you can be sent. And I was in the city called Asahikawa, which is even farther north of Sapporo. It's very cold there in the winter. But it was a really cool experience, and I'm excited to share some more about it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, to be in Hokkaido in the winter must have been super, super cold. Thank you too for joining. Wonderful. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. PowerPoint. And share. Let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Oh,
Yeah, we can see it.
and you can see my presentation?
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Hopefully you don't see like the notes and things like that. Okay.
Right.
Let's
It's not,
start off.
yeah, it's not
It's
in
not showing the
presentation
notes.
mode.
It's not doing presentation mode?
It is not.
Okay, so it's all good.
No, we see 2 slides actually.
You see 2 slides? Whoa.
And the notes, yeah.
And the notes, you see it. Oh no, okay. What do I do?
You okay?
Yes.
Um,
Let me stop sharing. This is always so tricky.
right.
Presentation. And then share this. Okay, how's that? Does it look
Yes. That looks great. Thank you.
wonderful? Awesome. So here is the title of our presentation. We're going to start off with a little introduction. I'd like to know who's on this call. No, I cannot see the chat. So Jennifer, you're gonna have to help me out. But if you could write in the chat your name, what state that you're calling from, and if you know where you're going to be hosted, if you can write down where you're going to be hosted, and if you have any place in Japan that you're looking forward to visiting. Oh,
Right. It takes a moment for the messages to
awesome.
come in.
Oh, very nice. We have um person going to Osaka. So maybe Alyssa can give some tips. Anyone else? Oh, we have some people going to Hiroshima. Very nice. You're gonna eat some delicious okonomiyaki over there. Let's see. We have Yamaguchi. Very nice. Okayama. Nice. A couple Osakas. Oita. Want to go to Tokyo? Nice. Yes, it'll take you a couple days to explore entirety of Tokyo because it's such a big city. Nice. We have some Gifu. Very nice. Awesome. So it looks like there's a lot of some in the city, some more on the countryside, but that'll be exciting to see what you're going to be experiencing. And it's going to be so different from where you are currently. So that'll be so much fun. Now, I'm a little interested in knowing your Japanese language background. You know, of course, you don't have to be fluent in Japanese to be able to go to, be on this program. But just, kind of before I start going into the more cultural aspect of it, be interested to know. So I'd like to know if you have been self-studying Japanese for less than a year or more than a year, or if you have taken any Japanese class. If so, then how many years you've been taking Japanese classes? And then if you have not started learning Japanese, then you can feel free to say that you're still a beginner, or if you are a native proficiency. So feel free to type it in the chat as well, your language background.
Like we have a few beginners. That's
Couple
great.
beginners.
I'm glad to see that people are
Nice.
focusing now on working on their language skills.
Yeah, mainly from YouTube. That's a great resource for sure. Definitely having some tutor helps for sure. Oh, nice. 385-day streak on Duolingo. That's amazing. Incredible. So it looks like we have a variety of, a mixture of beginner and maybe have a couple years under your belt. That's awesome. Again, you don't need to be proficient in Japanese, but just was curious a little bit where you guys are at. All right, so with that, we're going to do a little quick Japanese one-on-one to teach you some Japanese that would be good to have under your belt. Feel free to take a screenshot if this would be of interest. Starting with, where's the restroom? You will say, お手洗いはどこですか? And お手洗い means the place where you wash your hands. It's the most formal way of saying restroom. Of course, if this is a little hard to remember, you can say トイレはどこですか, which means the toilet. But if you want to be formal and speak to someone, you know, at a customer service or maybe someone elderly, you might want to use お手洗い, the place to wash your hands. The next phrase is いただきます and ごちそうさまでした. You use this before and after you eat the meal. So you would say いただきます before you eat the meal and ごちそうさま or ごちそうさまでした. They both mean the same thing after you eat the meal. And it's really just saying thank you so much. And いただきます means like I am going to consume this or I'm going to eat this right now. And then ごちそう means a feast. So you're saying, oh wow, that was a feast. It would be very important for you to remember saying this before you eat and after you eat. Your host family will be saying this if you're eating dinner with them. So make sure to say this. And it's really just thanking them for the meal. Next is a greeting to say when you are leaving and coming back. So when you're leaving the house, you would say
هو الحالة
"ittekimasu."
موصولة على التلفزيون ولا- What's the
Do you
point?
have a question? Oh. Okay. Yeah, so ittekimasu. You would say this when you're leaving the home. It's just saying, "Hey, I'm off. I'm going." And then whoever that's inside the house would say "itterashai," which means have a safe trip or have a good trip. So if you're at home and let's say your host mom is leaving, then you would make sure to say "itterashai" after your host mom says "ittekimasu." And on the contrary, when you return home, you would say "tadaima," which means I'm home. I have just returned back. And then whoever that's inside the house would say "okaeri," which means welcome back. So again, you would be saying "tadaima" when you enter, but if you're already at home and let's say your host dad comes home, then make sure to say "okaeri" back when they say "tadaima" to you. Next is "お疲れ様でした." This means good job or thank you for your work. You will be hearing this a lot, after you have just had your basketball practice and everyone's leaving. You would say "お疲れ" or "お疲れ様" to the other teammates or even your coach. It just is thanking them for the good practice or sweating together. So make sure to say that to your colleagues. And then last is よろしくお願いします or よろしく, which is more casual way to say it. If you say this to someone who you're meeting for the first time, it means nice to meet you. But you can really use this in a lot of different ways. You can say this at the very end of, I guess the conversation, just saying like, I'm counting on you to do this, or thank you so much for doing this. Let's say you're working on a group project and your friend that you're in group with is like, okay, I'll take care of this after class today. So you can say, oh, yoroshiku, which means thanks for working on this. I'm counting on you. Let's see, I have a question. Is this related to tsukareru? Yes. Otsukaresama da tsukareru does mean tired. So, otsukaresama, you are essentially saying like, thank you for getting tired. In a way, it's a really funny way to say this, but yes, you're correct in that.
Okay, guys.
For
Okay, that's all that.
asking. Oh, do we have another question? Maybe not. Yeah, feel free to type in the chat if you have any questions or ask away. All right, so we're going to get right into the cultural aspect of this presentation, starting with the group harmony. Group harmony is so important in Japan. We consider ourselves the collectivist society. Collectivist society it might be very foreign if you're from the US, where it is a very individualistic society here. One thing that you will observe when you're in Japan is everyone refers to each other and calls each other with their last name, or their family name, because when you're talking to someone, that person is representing that family. As opposed to here, we call each other by our first name because that person is that own person. There is no relation to, the family, and the way of the family might be. So you might be called by your last name depending on where you are or the environment that you're in, but that is the society is that you are representing this group as a whole. In that sense, group consensus is very important. You want to be agreeing with the group. So let's say you're after school, your friends are talking about what to do, and maybe some of your friends want to do basketball, but you want to play soccer, and you're the only one that wants to play soccer. But if everyone else is agreeing to play basketball, then you shouldn't say, hey, actually, I want to play soccer. Is there any way we can fit that in the schedule? You should try to avoid that. You should agree to basketball. Or you can say, yeah, let's play basketball, or can we play soccer next time? This time we can play soccer, but I'd like to play soccer next time. But just kind of agreeing to the situation. I think the biggest thing that people might say is to read the room and read the I guess the how the group is feeling. So you see the word KY. KY stands for 空気が読めない, which means you can't read the air. Also means you can't read the room. So don't disturb the group harmony and don't be a KY. Don't be someone that can't read the room. There's a saying that called the nail that sticks up gets hammered down. So, it's literally like, let's say there's a wood and there's a, nail that's sticking up. Oftentimes the culture will be to, you know, nail that so that everyone is same. You might see that. I'm not too sure if it's still relevant now, but let's say there's a super stellar basketball player. I'm using basketball pretty frequently, but let's say there's a stellar basketball player. That person might not like getting that attention of, oh my God, like you're so good at playing basketball. They might not like that as much as maybe we might in the United States. Yeah, connected to empathy, you're always being considerate of other people and you're trying not to break this group harmony and you're thinking about what everyone else might want, what would make them happy, and in turn, you might feel more connected with the group. Japan is a homogenous culture, so you might be placed in a host community that is not so used to having someone that doesn't look like them. So I think that it would be good to just kind of prepare, have that mindset. You might get asked a lot of questions about your country, or you might get a lot of questions that might make you uncomfortable at times because they're just not so exposed to foreigners. So make sure to have open-mindedness and flexibility on that. They do have their own stereotypes of foreigners, so try to, yeah, again, be open-minded about it and approach it with humbleness on any of those encounters. School, you will most likely have a dress code and a school uniform. The alums can talk a little bit more on their experience with the dress code, but oftentimes it will be, no piercing, no makeup, no big jewelry, very conservative, nothing showy and flashy. You might see that if you're walking around the town as well. Their non-uniform school clothes might also be very conservative. It's possible that your school will provide you with a school uniform. It's possible that they might ask you to bring, something similar to the uniform, like a button down and black slacks, or something like that. Um, but just kind of look at if you are out in the town, kind of observe what other people are wearing, and try to fit in to what the dress code is of the town and wherever you are. All right, that's it for group harmony. All right. So next is about apologizing. One thing you'll realize when you're in Japan is that everyone is apologizing. Everyone is bowing all the time. It's really funny how ingrained in their culture it is to apologize. So a little bit of vocab. You might hear people saying "sumimasen" or "suimasen," which is "excuse me" or "I'm sorry," the little bit more formal. And then "gomen nasai" or "gomen" is "I'm sorry," more casual for your friends. Now, I would say "gomen nasai" is a lot more of the similar apology to "I'm sorry" in the United States, as opposed to "sumimasen" is more equivalent to "excuse me." So I think oftentimes in Japan, they're not saying I'm sorry because they did something wrong. I mean, they will say I'm sorry if they did something wrong, but them saying like sumimasen all the time doesn't mean that they are doing something wrong or they're making a lot of mistakes. It's simply because they feel like they have inconvenienced someone that they're interacting with. So let's say you are trying to get off a train and it's really packed and you want to get by people, you know, maybe in English you might say, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get by, but you're not really like, I'm sorry because I did something wrong. It's, I'm sorry to, be a little bit of an inconvenience. I'm asking you to move aside so that I can get off this train and not miss the stop. So that's kind of the similar sentiment when people are apologizing. Um, so it's really about, understanding the dynamic of the situation um and yeah, just kind of you know, feeling like you have inconvenienced someone and you're acknowledging that you have caused that. Um, let's see. Yes, in Japan, the less you apologize, the more you're held in the wrong. I think in general, it's just good to apologize whenever you see fit, and don't make excuse. Yeah, so I have a little video for you here. This guy, if you don't know him, he has a lot of videos about the Japanese culture and he explains it really well in English. He's going to talk to you about a phrase, otetsu o kakemasu. That means sorry to trouble you. That is another phrase that I haven't touched on. He'll explain it better in the video, but it's more so he'll explain more about the culture of apologizing, which is why I wanted to play this video for you. Hopefully the sound
お手
works.
数をおかけします is a Japanese phrase that we use every
Can you hear the sound?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Is this too small? He'll be saying it in English, but hopefully it's not too tiny.
お手数をおかけします is a Japanese phrase that we use every day, and it literally means sorry to make you move your hands. So it's close to sorry to trouble you or thank you for going through the trouble. You say or write it whenever you request an action from someone, no matter how big or small the task is. Because in Japan, not bothering anyone is a core value, respecting people's space, time, and peace. It's polite to acknowledge the fact that another person will lift even a finger for you. So for example, ちょっといいですかプレゼンのスライド用意しましたので、ご確認いただきますと、お手数おかけします。Or for example, ボス加藤の野郎がコンビニでタケノコの札じゃなくてキノコの山買ってきやがったんです。それは活かしておけんな。佐藤さん、お手数をおかけします。
Okay. I'll stop it right here because I don't need to show you the rest. But yeah, he is asking them to do something for them, and I have inconvenienced you for doing extra for me. So I don't think you'll use otesu o kakeshimasu, but you might hear it frequently, whether at a shopping mall or on the subway stations, anything like that. You might hear it. So just wanted to show you this video to show the culture of apologizing. All right. Yes, he is a really funny guy. His name is Kyota, and I have his Instagram handle at the end if you do want to check out. I have a couple more videos. I'm relying a lot on him, so I don't have to be talking too much. Okay, next is punctuality. This is so super important in Japan. Everything in Japan is on time, and yes, punctuality is so important. Yeah, if when they say showing up 5 minutes early is on time, that they do mean it. And I think it just shows that you're respecting other people's time when you are early. You're there if you are early to class, like you're there to learn. If you're early to your sports practice, you're ready to, practice with them, and you're not, again, inconveniencing someone else by being late. And so I highly encourage you, if you don't have a watch or another way to make sure that you are on time, to do so. If you need to set calendar reminders on your phone, anything to make sure that you're not late. And again, if you are late, apologizing, sincerely from your heart, and explaining, I'm sorry, I forgot to set an alarm clock. This won't happen again. It will go a long way. Give yourself extra time in rare cases that the bus is late. You don't want to be the one that is late. So, always think 5-10 minutes ahead. Um, there's this news article that I thought was so funny. Japan line apologizing for departing 20 seconds early. Yeah, I just thought that was so Japan. It does happen sometimes. And that's why it's so important that you are a little bit early, because maybe the train that you were going to take might leave early and then you have to wait for the next train. Yeah, this is something that I feel like would never happen in the US. I live in New York and I wait 10 minutes for the New York subway. So this is very unique to Japan. But please be punctual. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the hierarchy. As I shared earlier, Japan is it is a collectivist society, and within that, it is very hierarchical. So all your status, your age, your rank, seniority, all of that matters a lot, and it's very important that you respect the hierarchy. So you see, it wherever you fit in, whether you're in a class or you're at a sports practice or you're at your host family's home, it's important that you are respecting your elders, anyone who is considered to be higher than you in the hierarchy, and use the proper tense. If you are using formal tense to your teachers, or if you're using casual tense to your classmates. But in all, I think it's important that you do observe how the people around your age are interacting with each other. I have heard that there are some teachers who are very liked by their students, and they're not the students don't talk to them in a formal tense. Or you don't know if you are supposed to speak to your host parents in formal tense or informal tense. Maybe start off with a formal tense, and maybe they'll tell you, no, it's okay, just use a casual tense. Or you can of course ask them, like, how should I address you? So it's important that you observe your surroundings to see what type of honorific speech people are using. Yes. Also, another thing, within the AFS too, there are hierarchy. You might notice that a lot of the volunteers that you are interacting with at AFS are going to be much older than the AFS Japan staff. So I think it's important that you observe what their dynamic is like, and act appropriately to that observation, and being mindful of the culture that is there. Yes, it's a little hard, because I think a hard concept, because I work with students who come from some of these hierarchical culture, and they come to the US, and they have a host sibling who's fighting back to their host parents. And that's a big culture shock to them, because in their culture, you don't talk back to your parents. What they say is what they want, and that is the last say. So I think that is something that is a big cultural change here. It would be important that you don't talk back to your hierarchy, anyone who's higher than you. Okay, communication styles. As you might know, there is two types of communication styles, roughly, the direct communication style and the indirect communication style. And Japan is very, very heavily indirect communication style. So you might not get a straightforward answer if you ask them questions. And you might have to rely a lot on nonverbal cues like body language, posture, facial expression. Hesitation is a big one. You know, you might ask them, hey, like, you want to go to karaoke? And they might be like, yeah, yeah. Maybe don't push them. Maybe they don't feel like singing. Maybe they want to do something else. So just kind of read that cue. Hopefully they don't make it too awkward for you to handle. But also don't let that discourage you from inviting them out next time. They might have their own reason why they don't want to sing karaoke. So yeah, that is very common, and they might say yes or agree because they don't want to break that group harmony. So just kind of understand that cultural difference and the communication style as well. The biggest one is, let's say you eat something and you don't really like it. It might be common in the US to say, that I didn't really like that. That wasn't, that I didn't. Yeah, that's like too spicy or that's too salty. It is common to say that directly, but it is, I would say, highly discouraged to do if you are in Japan, whether you're talking to your host parents or someone that's working at the restaurant. It's best to say, this is not something that I'm not used to. It's just a little bit different than what I'm used to. That is kind of the a common thing to say. Now, another a tip, if you eat something that you don't like and you don't know what to say, is to say, that's a mature flavor, which is 大人の味. I like saying that because you're not putting the blame on the food, but you're putting the blame on yourself, saying like, I'm not mature enough to understand the depth of this cuisine or this flavor. So I think it would be a good one to use it. And I think if you use this to your host family or anyone, they will understand that you didn't quite like it, but you're trying to be very polite about it, and I think they will appreciate that you have made the attempt to say this. So yes, thank you for writing the romaji in the chat. But yeah, that's a little tip on my end. I have two videos from Kyota. First is about the indirect communication. He's going to explain a little bit about the term goenryo shimasu. Enryo is a little bit hard to explain, but he might explain it a little bit better in the video.
Japanese communication is sometimes so indirect, so soft-spoken, that even Japanese people don't get it. For example, you'll sometimes see this sign in the museum. 館内でのご飲食はご遠慮ください. Please refrain from eating or drinking in the museum. But this word, 遠慮, literally means think far. So you think far into the future. Okay, so if I bring in a takeout burrito, and I accidentally slip and fall, I might smear my burrito all over this Japanese sculpture and make it a Mexican work of art, and we might not want that. But gummy bears must be okay, because even if I spill it, it won't smear anything, so maybe if I'm quick, it's okay. Okay. But no, ご遠慮ください means do not do it. Not even gummy bears. just said very softly. And after they catch several offenders, they upgrade the sign to say, 館内での飲食は固くお断りします。Food and drinks are strictly prohibited in the museum.
Yes. So that is the indirect communication. Even Japanese people sometimes don't know what it actually means. So it's okay if you don't get it from the beginning. And then the second video I have is nonverbal communication. Not entirely nonverbal communication, but it talks more about the cues and trying to get context from each other. Yeah, it's a funny video.
When you learn Japanese, the first thing you probably notice is that the grammar is so difficult. What's polite, what's not, but don't worry. When you're learning a language, you're basically training yourself to speak in complete, accurate sentences. But if you're just traveling in Japan, it's often better not to speak in complete sentences. English is a bit like, hi, this is my complete idea. Hi, this is my complete idea. Hi, hello, hi, hello. But in Japanese conversation, it's more like, here's a Lego. Here's my Lego. And they try to build up an idea together like this. So everyone tries to infer what the other person is trying to convey. So you often say just one or two words and let the other person and context complete your sentence in their mind. So if you're looking for the restroom in a restaurant, you can just say, すいません、お手洗い. You can just trail off like that and the staff will be like, お手洗いですか? こちらです、こちら、こちら、こちらです. If you're looking for the nearest station, you just say, すいません、駅は... And then they'll be like, 駅ですか? こっち、一緒に行きましょう! So if you're just traveling in Japan, don't stress yourself out with grammar. It's more important to enjoy your stay.
Yes. So there would be a lot of nonverbal cues that you will observe when you're in Japan. Okay, communication style. Oh, nice. Okay, next is modesty, humility, and humbleness. Like I said earlier, during the group harmony with the nail sticking out, it's viewed negatively to be bragging and to be standing out. You might often hear a lot of self-deprecating or deprecating phrases for your own child. You know, it's very common for parents to say, "Oh, my lazy child," even if they are very proud of them. It is very common, so don't be surprised if your if your host parents start making comments that you might not hear so commonly in the US about their own child. Just know that they are actually very proud of them, but they just don't want to be boasting and seem like they're bragging. Similarly, flashy clothes is also not common, as I shared earlier. You don't want to be standing out too much. Oftentimes people will be very modest in the way they wear. So here's a little comic of a kid who is bragging that he got 38 out of 100 on the test. And then she is saying like, you can't brag about that. And then he was like, but actually the other day I got 85 on the score. And she said, don't brag about that. Regardless, she was saying, don't brag about it. But when those two are alone, she's really praising the kid, saying like, you're so nice, and like you're so nice, and all of that. Just praising the kid. So just know that's just part of the culture, is to you might see a lot of deprecating comments, but it is part of the modesty and the humility and the humbleness culture of it. Okay, where's the mouse? Oh. All right, a quick break from me talking. I'd like to do a little gesture quiz. So I'm going to do a couple gestures, and you can write in the chat what you think the gesture means. So the first gesture is this man right here that is making a big circle sign above the head. What do you think that gesture means? All right, I'm seeing some yeses and correct. Okay. Yes. Very nice. Yeah, it does mean okay, more so than correct. Um, yeah, let's say you are in a group and you want to go to a cafe and you're kind of a big group, maybe 5 or 6 people. You don't know if there's a table open for this many people. So your friend is like, I'm just gonna quickly go check. And your friend runs over to the restaurant and then they ask if there's an open seat for 5 or 6 people. And then your friend might be like, yes, there's space. That's kind of the feel for this gesture. Very nice. Now, what do you think this woman is saying with the X in the front? Yes, you guessed it right. It means no. So it's the opposite, right, of that example. If there is no space, then they're like, they don't have space. They don't have space for us. Very nice. You might also see, and I think this is super old-fashioned. I wouldn't do this if I were you, but you might see some people doing this at the restaurant, and that means check. I don't know why. I think this is what like it looks like a check mark. It doesn't, but I think it's more old fashioned. I think like my dad's generation, it would be like this to the waiter and they'll bring the check over. But usually if you just ask for the check, they'll bring it for you. All right, next is I'll do the gesture. This gesture, so I'm waving in front of my face. No, smelly. Don't worry, not at all. No problem. Yeah, kind of getting the definitely the feel for it. It does mean like don't worry or I don't yeah, I don't know more so. Or you if you praise someone like you're so good at like you're so smart, like you're so good at math. Someone might be like, "Oh no." Like not at all. That is not the case. Um now if there is no wave like this, what do you think this means? Like no waving. You might see this at full train. Sorry, please. Sorry. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, it's more like excuse me or like my bad. You know, if you're trying to get through some people of a crowd, you might see them people going like this to get through. Okay, I have two more. What do you think this man in the glasses is doing? So the full movement is this. Now this is also a little bit old-fashioned. You might not see anyone doing it, but like, oh, rock, rock, paper, scissors. That's true. Yes. Ah, I got it. Exactly. Yes. Yes, I like the light bulb. It does mean the light bulb, like, oh, I understand. Um, oh, that's right. So that's kind of the feel for it. And then the last one I have is this move. Come here, hurry. Yes, very nice. It does mean come here. I think some people tend to think they're shooting you away. But it does mean come here. It's the opposite. So if you see a grandpa going like this, you should go to him because he might give you some candy or something. Usually, this means I have something for you. Awesome. Some tips to avoid. Japanese people might not like direct eye contact. a tip is to look at the middle of the eyebrows, their nose. Try to not look at them straight in the eyes. Another thing I was told that they would appreciate is not to sit, like this at a table, but like a bench, sitting at a bench where you're next to someone can be a little bit more, they're more comfortable with that. Crossing arms like this can be seen as intimidating or not approachable. So if you're waiting for someone and you have a habit of doing this, I would try not to cross your arms because you don't want to be seen as unapproachable. Pointing a finger is also not really good. Um, you know, if you, especially pointing at a person is very discouraged. You want to use maybe your whole hand, like you or myself, or like on a menu, some people do point, but it might be good to be like this menu right here. Or that location over there instead of like that. Using your whole hand and palm would be good. And then the last thing is pointing with chopsticks is also really disrespectful. Anything with chopsticks too, I think it's disrespectful to give someone food through the chopsticks. So like chopsticks to chopsticks is really not good etiquette. So chopstick is purely just for eating, putting into your mouth, or putting from plate to your plate. But aside from that, no pointing. It's not a good look. So just a couple tips on some Japanese gestures. All right, we're almost there. Let's talk a little bit about cleanliness. Cleanliness, you will notice as soon as you step your foot in Japan at how clean Japan is. Not a single spot of, I mean, maybe there's a little bit of dirt, but no trash whatsoever. And some people say like there's no trash, and more surprisingly, there is no trash can in sight. Like, why is it so clean? And it's really comes from this group harmony and not being inconvenienced to other people. And so they really want to make the place that they live and the place that they call home clean. So they do bring their trash back home. You might know when you're in school in Japan, there will be a cleaning time, usually after lunch. And you might be assigned to cleaning the hallway, the bathroom, cleaning the classroom itself. You might be assigned to different things. And this all comes from respecting the place that you're using. And I think it's a really great culture to be, being responsible for your own space and making sure that it's organized and tidy. One more thing you might notice is that Japan is very big on recycling, and every item that you have has a very specific way to recycle. So if let's say you have a plastic bottle, like a water bottle, then you might have to first rinse out everything and make sure it's clean inside, and you might have to take off the label of the water bottle, and that goes in a different recycle than the normal plastic recycle. So make sure to talk to your host family, especially when you get there, on how to recycle things, where to put things away. And, it's always good to ask and not assume. Just kind of an example of where an indirect communication might come into play is, let's say you do throw things away incorrectly, your host family probably will not say it to you. They'll just correct it because they don't want to make you look like, make you feel bad that you might have done something wrong. And that can be a buildup, if they are continuing to correct things. So it's always good to ask, hey, did I do this correctly? Can you please let me know if I did anything wrong? To just kind of give them that space to be able to share things openly. And recycling is big in that, and really not to scare you whatsoever, but different days of the week is different recycle day. And when you write when you throw things away, you label the trash bag with your family name. And if there is anything that is incorrectly thrown away in that bag, they will bring it back to you to correct it. It is, again, I don't want to scare you, but that can happen. And that's why, again, it's a collectivist society. It puts a responsibility on the family on that. So please make sure to talk to your host family about this. Awesome. Last slide. Attentiveness. You will also notice when you're in Japan how attentive everyone is. And attentive as in they're always just thinking ahead of what other person might need and just always putting other people's need before themselves. So they're always paying attention, oh, that person is working until late. I'm going to give them a can of coffee from the vending machine, you know, or, some other example of attentiveness. A big one, if you go to the convenience store, you'll most likely be buying their rice balls that's wrapped in this plastic wrapping. And you'll notice that they have put in so much research on how to make the eating experience of this rice ball better for consumers. So then they have decided that after many years of research, I'm sure that a lot of people don't like eating soggy seaweed that's been touching the rice ball for a long time. So then the seaweed is wrapped in separate plastic bags so that it doesn't get soggy or stale. And then it's wrapped and it has this you know, contraption of how to remove this plastic wrap so that you can easily remove it and eat this, crunchy seaweed for your rice ball. So that's like such attention that nobody notices, but is appreciated um, by many people. And I think that really shows the biggest. I think that's the biggest the part that I'm the most proud of as a Japanese person is how attentive they are and always thinking about other people. Um, so some strategies for that you can show and demonstrate your attentiveness is being punctual, as I shared earlier, 5 to 10 minutes early. That is, focusing on other people's needs, as in respecting their time. Showing gratitude. Thank 3 times. That is a tip when it comes to showing gratitude. Let's say your host that is like, I'm going to take you to the beach, and so when the first time you say thank you is when he tells you, I'm going to take you to the beach. That's the first time. The second time you say thank you is the day of when he takes you, right before you leave. Like, thank you again for taking me. And then the third time that you say thank you is after you return home from the beach. So saying thank you 3 times really shows how much you appreciate them for thinking about, how you will be happy and how you can get the most out of this experience. Respecting your superiors, as I shared earlier with the hierarchy, being modest and being humble, and then lastly, keeping your place clean and tidy. Your host family is opening up their home for you. The least you can do is keeping your place clean and tidy for them. Yes. So that is all of the cultural topics. I'm sorry I spoke just a little too long, but now is the time to hear from our alum. Again, we have Kylie and Alyssa. If there are any questions for them directly, please feel free to add them into the chat. But while you are brewing your questions for them, like we can start off with the first question. What was the biggest cultural difference that you experienced? Let's see, Alyssa or Kylie, does any of you want to step in?
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to speak first?
If you know what you're gonna say, you can go ahead.
All right. For me, I think that the biggest cultural shock was how like nice everybody was. I feel like in America there's like less like unity, and so like there's like for example like the trains. First of all, I'm from a small town in America. I didn't even know really what a train was until I got to Japan. But like in the train stations, everybody's like so sweet and polite, which is like something you do not really experience in America. Like here, even like as somebody who drives a lot, even I get upset with people on the road and I'm like yelling at them in my car. They don't hear me, but like I'm obviously not the happiest. And so like I feel like it's like much less common to actually outwardly express when you're unhappy with something in Japan. You just kind of have to adapt like an it is what it is mindset. But yeah.
So for me personally, the biggest cultural difference that I experienced was in with my classmates and trying to make friends was that in Japan, the culture is very much people don't pry, at least in my where I was at, even though the people I was around were considered very friendly, they don't really pry with too many questions. So I thought more people would want to ask me about America because they were interested in it, but I didn't actually get that many questions. And so at one point I kind of almost felt like no one was really interested in me being there, which was already hard being like the only different kid at my school. And sometimes I would go up to kids and I would ask them, like, I would try and ask them about their hobbies or something to get to know them better. And maybe they would just ask me something like, or tell me, like, oh, the weather's pretty nice today, or something like that. They love to bring up the weather. Like, that is like one of the biggest conversation starters they have. But I just didn't get it because here, if someone tells me about the weather, I think they don't want to talk to me. So there was like a solid almost a month where I just kind of felt like no one really, or a lot of people didn't really want to talk to me because they kept bringing up the weather. But that's not what it means. They're just they don't want to pry and get into your business because they consider that rude. So just be patient and like accept talking about the weather a little bit, even if you're not used to it, and I'll help you make friends.
It's a great point. Yes, Japanese people, I don't know why they do love talking about the weather. Even business emails, they all start with like the weather or like the season. The cold season is about to change into spring, or like it's like a fancy way of saying that. I don't know why. But yes, a great point. Japanese people can be very, very, very shy, especially when they're in high school. So don't be discouraged if no one is coming up to talk to you. But rather you should definitely step outside of your comfort zone and try to talk to them. And join clubs. That's definitely a good starting point in making friends. Thanks for those tips. Great. Next question. What advice would you give an AFSers going to Japan?
Have fun and don't like stay in the house a lot. Try and make plans and go out and like make the most of your exchange because like if you just stay in and watch Netflix, why are you even there? At that point, you're just wasting money. So, like, go out and make good friendships and, like, stay in contact with the people that you know. I think, like, my biggest regret is that, like, I'm a terrible texter. And so I forget, like, to check in on my Japanese friends a lot. But whenever we do talk, it's a good time. So just stay in contact with the people that you talk to and enjoy your time.
Okay, there's a lot of advice I would give, so I'll try and like pick the best ones. First of all, when you go over to Japan, I recommend having a recipe you know how to cook from your house or your family, just so that you can share maybe a piece of American or your own culture with your host family. It's just a simple gesture that they really appreciated. Like I cooked lemon salmon for my host families because I had three host families, kind of unique circumstances, but I would make them that dish. And they always appreciated it and enjoyed it. So just, yeah, try and find a dish you can bring to them. And um, I guess this tip is also, let's see, I guess this kind of goes with the next question, but I recommend going out to get food with friends a lot more. I wish I had done that more because it's just a really easy way to get together with people. And um, they have like conveyor belt sushi is my personal favorite. It's very good, and the food there is so cheap. At least when I was there, just less than a year ago, or no, over a year ago now. Okay, the food was super cheap, like so affordable, and that's just a really popular way people got together. And so I wish I had invited people to get food out more, and I recommend people do it.
Yeah, me and my friends used to go to Caesarea a lot. And also talking about like the cooking for people, that's also a really good way to apologize. I had a little host brother. His name was Kanta, and he was 10 years old. But because he was little and I was big, we would have like random disagreements that made no sense just because like we had a cultural disconnect, and it was actually harder for us to talk even though I spoke like his level of Japanese, because I would say I'm definitely over American. And so I would come home and I'd be like, "How was your day?" And he would just look at me and be like, "Same as normal," because you don't ask how people's days are in Japan. You just don't do it. I don't know why, but I found out the hard way. So ask how people's days are. But my little brother would get mad at me for talking too much, and if he ever got mad at me, I would just make him spaghetti, and suddenly he was fine and everything was great again.
It's so funny. Thanks for sharing. Now, how did you two make friends? Was it a gradual or did you do something? Was there an event, sports, clubs?
Um, I was I'm very talkative. I talked to all of my classmates whenever I could. I had a library study period, and I always talked to people when they would talk to me in my library study period. And I also was in tea ceremony club and the English speaking society club. And so I just like was as involved as I could be. Just made sure that I was like trying to reach out to people and trying to make friends with people. So
Okay, that was honestly, I'd say patience is key here, because it's just like it just takes time to get closer to people. I think especially in Japan compared to here, because I'm also pretty talkative, and so I would try and talk to people a lot. And some people responded, like different people responded differently to that. But overall, even if it feels like people maybe don't really seem interested in talking, they might just be shy. So just being patient with people, because once after some time they'll get to know you better. Like it just took a while to really get to know my classmates better, but once you do, it will be worth it. So just like hold in there, because I remember there was one girl I'm really good friends with now, and for like maybe the first half of my exchange, even I didn't talk to her all that often. um I just didn't really know who she was, but then by the second half we were joking around. So it just takes time to get to know people. And for talking to people, I recommend asking them about um, clubs or their favorite idols, if you're into like even Korean idols, especially Japanese idols too. Um, and also food, because it's like a culture of foodies. Everyone can talk about food there, so that's a topic you can always relate to people over.
Awesome. Thanks for those tips. We have a question in the chat. How good was their English? Um, yeah. And what was your Japanese level before you got on program?
so I feel like for me personally, the school that I went to, it was Kansei Gakuin, and so everybody studied English, but like for fluency, I feel like fluency was pretty rare. I mean, I could probably hold like a small conversation in English, but learning Japanese was definitely like very vital for me, especially because I was like the only exchange student at my school. And for Japanese level, I went over there and I'd been studying, but I just couldn't understand Japanese when I was just regularly studying it at home in America. And so I kind of went over there like knowing bits and pieces, but basically zero. And now I can speak it. I have a JLPT N4 certification. So, I mean, like, as long as you pay attention and try and talk to people, you'll pick it up pretty fast, I think.
And I would add on to that by even saying like one of the hardest parts. So I'd been studying Japanese for almost 2 years before I went, and like my abilities, I could hold a basic conversation, I think, but I wasn't like anywhere near the level needed to be fluent, because school, especially school, they use like words like cytoplasm and cell and random stuff from classes that you probably would not be learning in Japanese lessons. And so just like stick in there. I don't recommend translating, like going home and just translating a bunch of words, because you probably forget them. So just keep paying attention in school, because I remember for me, one morning I just woke up and or one day I caught myself thinking in Japanese, and it was kind of like, oh, so I'm thinking in Japanese now, an accident, naturally. And that's kind of when you can tell you become fluent. And it helped when I could, even though school is still hard, I realized that I was getting better, and that like my paying attention, just listening, even if you don't know what they're saying, when I could start answering questions in class, and that was really cool. And so I got a fluency label, and I didn't like come home and like do grammar lessons or translate. I was just tried to be engaged at school, and that's like, I think, the best way to learn Japanese.
Yeah, for me, my aha moment was when I finally had my first dream in Japanese. I was like, whoa. And I went over there because I actually wanted to like learn how to translate. I'm really into Japanese literature, and so I spent a lot of time reading and talking to my literature teacher, which I think really helps. So if you guys like reading like at all, even just like pick up a children's book and like flip through it if you have free time, and it helps significantly.
Oh yeah, I actually read The Hobbit in Japanese while I was over there, and that helped me too.
Yeah,
Wow.
I read Osamu Dazai's Ningen Shikaku in the original Japanese.
Wow.
It was really good.
Yeah.
I've never even read that.
I love it. It's my favorite.
Incredible. Thank you so much for those tips. I have a couple questions directly at me. Let's see. I have a question about accepted, accepted attire for young adults. You can let me know if you think this would be acceptable, as in fits in the society. Casual Adidas black or white track pants, a t-shirt, polo, and tennis shoes. And what about hoodies? Do you think those would be blending in, fit in with the culture?
I feel like that would be good. I don't know. What do you think, Alyssa? I was not really in like the fashion hotspot of Japan, so I'm not sure.
I mean, for me, I lived like in Osaka, so I saw a lot of wild fashion. But I feel like for everyday wear, Adidas is gonna be fine. Something I noticed is that they don't wear sweatpants. They don't wear sweatpants and they don't wear leggings. So, I would definitely stick to like jeans, slacks, skirts, stuff like that, just because like their casual wear is not the same as our casual wear.
Absolutely. I also have a question about the cell service. What did you two do for your data? Did you get a cell service in Japan, or did you, you know, deal with it over here?
Uh,
Mine was very last minute. So I didn't figure it out until I was in Japan, and we ended up having to get me like an extra phone that I Bluetooth tethered to my normal phone. And so that's the way I don't recommend. I would recommend just figuring out what type of what is it called? It's an SD card. I would recommend figuring out what SD card you need here. I think that AFS actually like provides you the service with like Sakura Mobile. So just like spend some time looking into that. Don't do it last minute.
and my phone was locked, so um my parents actually helped me with this. Like the one thing they helped me on was reaching out to the cell service provider and just getting me like if you call your service provider, you can get a plan. It tends to be more expensive, but if you have like a data plan here in the US, it might be worth it to just do that.
And then
Absolutely.
hopefully just jumping in here. Hopefully everyone received the email yesterday. There's a lot of information in there. And one of the pieces of information is how to order your SIM card for delivery in Japan. To get a SIM card in Japan, if you're a minor, your parents in the US must sign some consent forms, whether you order it now or you decide to get it after you get to Japan. But Kylie's recommendation, making sure your phone is unlocked so that you can get a SIM card when you get to Japan. And Alyssa's idea of that sounds very creative, Alyssa. But I think oftentimes what we have heard, and maybe Kylie and Alyssa, you can speak to this as well, is that having a local number is helpful then when you want to communicate with your host family and your friends. And you can get eSIMs as well. All of that information is in the letter.
Yeah, my host family and my friends mostly communicated through Line. So we really didn't need like a phone number or anything. It was mostly about having the SIM card so that you could get like the Line messages wherever you were. But yeah, I'm sure that a phone number would work fine too. It's very like subjective, I feel like. It depends.
Perfect. Yeah. And it is in that letter that it was sent yesterday also does Japan asks, AFS Japan asks for everyone to put Line on their phone before they arrive. So you can already practice using that with your host family now.
Troy, did you have something to share or ask?
A few questions actually. My mom did actually beat me to one of them, kind of in the chat. But um, is there any form of eSIM card, or is it only physical when we would go to Japan?
Yeah, I think you can order eSIMs, but I would definitely look through that email. AFS Japan has created a very comprehensive guide for Sakura, which includes what type of phones can be used in Japan. So I would look through that.
Okay. Um, I think Alyssa kind of mentioned a a little bit earlier about the clubs. Um, I was looking online and it sounded like we were only able to pick one club, but I wanted to confirm if it's like you're able to pick more than one at a school.
It depends on your school and it also depends on your schedule. For me, ESS and English Speaking Society and SATO were on 2 different days. And so I would go to, I think my schedule was Tuesdays and Thursdays, I had tea ceremony. And then Wednesdays and Fridays, I had ESS. And then other than that, I would usually just kind of hang around the school and loiter and talk to people at the end of the day. So yeah, I mean, technically, I think there is some technicalities where you can only choose one club, but since I was an exchange student, they were like, we kind of want your help in ESS anyways. So I was like, okay. But yeah.
Similar experience. They tend to make exceptions for exchange students. Don't rely on it, but like usually you're just an exchange student, you're there for the experience and they get that. So I was in Kyudo, which is archery and soccer, and they let that happen. So
Yeah.
it just depends on the school. Just be nice to your teachers and like be friendly towards them, and they'll be fine with you doing whatever.
Yeah, that for sure.
I think in Japanese culture, there's the concept of commitment. You know, the I guess boys would be growing up doing what is it, baseball. Baseball's super big and it can take up a lot of your time with the practice if you do join the baseball, and it's just showing that you're committed to that sports and that practice and the team, and you're not, you know, going off doing some other clubs. So again, it does depend on your school, but if you do want to show that commitment to your team, then it might be advisable to stick to one club or sports. I have a couple more questions. They were asking about the adapt electric adapter, like the outlet. I will share Japan is two prong. So if your usual like American prong I guess, outlet that has the third one, you might need an adapter. But if you have, like your normal phone charger that's two prongs, those will work. It's just if there's a third one, then you might need to get an adapter for that one.
Yeah, I had no issues with like plug-in stuff. All of my stuff worked perfectly fine. So you should be good.
They have a question about gifts. What were some of the gifts that you two brought to your host family and your maybe school?
I didn't really bring anything for my school. I did end up at the end of my year making all of my classmates little keychains. They had little handmade bears and little clay like kamihikoki. 英語でなんて言う?
Paper airplanes?
Paper airplane, thank you. Yes, paper airplane. They had little paper airplanes on them. But that was at the end of the year, and that was like inside jokes that I had with my classmates. But at the beginning of my exchange year, what I brought for my host parents was a map of my city where I live here. And I brought them some tea. It was Marionberry tea because that's something that we're pretty famous for in Oregon. And then what else? I brought them little keychains from the gift shop that I worked at. So just little things like that. They'll really appreciate it. It goes a long way.
I think most of my gifts were Trader Joe's snacks. So I think that works. Yeah.
100%. They know about Trader Joe's, most of them, but they don't actually, when they come here, they're like, oh my God, the Trader Joe's. They love the chocolates. I think that's a good one. The cookies.
Yeah, and also they don't really have peanut, at least where I was at, they didn't have peanut butter, and I had one host family said they wanted to try peanut butter, so if you could bring like a little thing of it, as long as you make sure they're not allergic to peanuts, which most Japanese people aren't, then that could be a fun gift.
Absolutely. Well, I think there are some other questions in the chat, but I think they are getting answered. Wonderful. I know we are running over time, but one last maybe message from Alyssa and Kylie that you have for them. Advice, anything to share with them?
I would say just it's gonna be, I think maybe this won't be the case for everyone, but for me, there were some times that were super, super hard where I just wanted to like actually get injured and get sent home because I was feeling super lonely, especially because there's like a big culture barrier that you might not notice at first, but you'll probably notice while you're there. But it does get better, and just be optimistic and just be positive, be kind to your classmates, and by the end I didn't want to leave. So it will be a really cool experience too. So just keep trying to speak Japanese and connect with people, and it'll go great.
Yeah, definitely like adding on to what she said, just try your best. Don't get discouraged. Don't get in your own head about things. I feel like something that I struggled with a little bit in the beginning was I would be like trying to speak in Japanese and then people would give me like a confused look and then I would get embarrassed and I would feel stupid and I'd be like, "You know what? Never mind. I'm not speaking now." And just don't do that. Just keep trying your best. And also, I don't know who needs to hear this, but jisho.org saved my life multiple times. It's like a little digital Japanese dictionary. You can look for kanji by typing out the hiragana. You can type in romaji and find words that way. You can actually like use particles to build the kanji that you're looking for and find the kanji you're looking for. And that website absolutely saved my life multiple times. So just kind of, keep your Japanese dictionary near and really do your best to like indulge yourself in the culture and live your experience. Any days you have off, don't just stay in the house. Go do something. Even if you have to go do it like by yourself, like if you just like take a walk in your city, it'll make you feel so much more connected and less like, man, I wish I was just at home. I don't want to be here anymore. So yeah.
Thank you so much for those wonderful, wonderful tip. Yes, most of all, have fun. You know, it is a one in a lifetime opportunity to be able to live with the host family in Japan. So Great. So I have a couple, the last slide. If you do have any questions, for me personally, my email is here. If you have any questions for Jennifer, I know you have her email. And then Kylie and Alyssa, if you want to share your contact information with them, you can, at your comfort, share that in the chat, maybe even your line handle as well. And then the Instagram videos were by Kyota. His Instagram is the Metro Classic. If you want to check out some of his other videos, there were so many. I had a hard time choosing which one would be the best for this session. But yeah, thank you so much for all of your attention. And we really wish you the best in Japan. We hope you have the best time. And we can't wait to hear all about it when you're there and once you come back as well.
Yeah, thank you, Kylie and Alyssa. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing about your so recent experience with AFS in Japan. And Akimi, thank you so much for putting together this amazing presentation and sharing all of this.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Otsukare-sama, and have a great program. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you so much. You take care.
Thank you.
ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。
Good luck, everyone.
はい。